It is no secret that rising cost of living paired with stagnant wages has made it very hard for regular Americans to put food on the table. And because of this, we used to have cheap, fun items and experiences to spend our money on in our free time that make our quality of life better, that are sadly no longer affordable in this day and age. The problems present with this kind of wealth inequality have dire consequences on our social lives, on our mental health, and on the climate, as this U.S. Department of Agriculture report outlines. So here are 11 things that the working class used to be able to afford but can no longer anymore. And number one is owning a pet. Not only is the cost of pet food rising, but so are veterinary bills and the cost it takes to get your pet groomed, which has sadly turned a very important stress-relieving part of our lives into a financial burden. And most pet owners now have to budget around $2,000 a year for maintenance of their pets, which is tragically unaffordable to some families and individuals. Number two is family vacations. According to MarketWatch research, 2/3 of families have taken on debt in order to take vacations in recent years. And even if they can't afford it, they're unwilling to sacrifice the luxury of taking time off to spend with your family and having a chance to rest. It's an unfortunate reality that many families struggle with. They desperately need a break, but they don't know how to take the time away from their jobs. Number three is eating out at chain restaurants. Even at chain restaurants like Chili's and Applebee's, many families argue that those are also unaffordable in recent years. Especially in high population cities, many families are burdened with high prices at these restaurants, turning restaurants and celebration meals into something that is largely inaccessible for most families. Number four is concert tickets. The reason for the inaccessibility of a lot of concerts are chiefly due to companies like Ticketmaster that have a complete stranglehold over the market for concerts and live events, siphoning such insane profit margins out of ticket sales that even a lot of the touring artists themselves are no longer making money from touring. Number five is groceries. Data shows that grocery prices have risen nearly 25% since March of 2020, and many consumers are reaping the consequences of greedflation, which actually makes their purchasing reality much worse. The corporations running these grocery stores take advantage of post-COVID supply chain issues and the temporary losses in profit that they experienced during COVID in order to unnecessarily inflate their prices, in order to price gouge their products unnecessarily, which is devastatingly inflationary and leads to record profits for these grocery chains, coming out of a time of crisis where many Americans are struggling to eat. Number six is secondhand clothing and thrift stores. A once accessible option for low-income families and individuals, thrift stores and secondhand shops have now become too expensive for their target demographic, making it increasingly difficult for people to buy essentials like winter coats, boots, back-to-school essentials. And number seven is health maintenance. The Commonwealth Fund 2023 Healthcare Affordability Survey found that healthcare coverage is largely inadequate for most Americans, which is no surprise considering the dire state of healthcare in our country. Not to mention that medical debt is the single largest cause of bankruptcy for Americans, according to the American Bankruptcy Institute. And number eight is owning a home or paying rent. While Chase Bank says that consumers should only spend around 30% of their income on rent, more than 40% of renters report that they spend over 35% of their income on housing. The insane surge of housing prices is largely in part because housing is a for-profit industry, so price hikes that push the working class out of their homes directly benefit profit margins for large landlord corporations when the property values skyrocket. Number nine is fast food meals. From dollar menus to general affordability, the toss-up between nutrition and convenience has been a long-standing battle. But now, fast food has become equally as bad for your financial health as it is for your personal health, in many ways, with nearly 80% of Americans saying that they can no longer afford fast food either, and that it has become a luxury due to high prices. Number 10 is appliances like air fryers and microwaves. Many families across the country are simply betting on their stability, fully aware that they wouldn't be able to cover an emergency, a broken appliance, or a last-minute bill that comes out of nowhere. And number 11 is farmers markets, especially for people who prioritize organic nutritional foods from rural communities that rely on agricultural neighbors for accessible produce. It's become impossible to ignore the rising price of farmers market goods. And of course, it's a vicious cycle. When other costs rise, like rent or utilities, sellers will also raise their prices to compensate, making everything less accessible amid financial concerns. These 11 unaffordable things are symptoms of growing wealth inequality that make it so much harder for working class individuals and families to afford the world that they live in. But everybody in the working class is in it together, so make sure you can connect with your community as much as possible. Whether that's joining local organizations, getting to know the people who work in the businesses in your area that you frequent, or volunteering for something that you're interested in. Don't let a crumbling economy make you feel like you're not valuable. because you are.